Hello, this is Mark O'Brien from Scalar, and I'd like to talk to you about the PowerQueries join command. You're probably already aware that PowerQueries provides a new level of functionality in Scalar that allows you to group and summarize your log lines and calculate statistics to give you a new level of insight to the data that's contained in your logs. The join command allows you to execute MySQL-style subqueries, which can allow you to associate disparate information from different log lines in your dataset. The example I'm going to use here is a table that's keyed off of user ID and has information on the number of requests and the response time. And I'm going to associate that with a second subquery that maps from user ID to email address. If instead you'd like to map using a static lookup table, we can do that using the lookup command, and that's covered in a different module. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this example of the join command. To start off with, I'm going to build my table that's keyed off of user ID. So what we're looking at here is a set of log lines. Each of these log lines contains a request ID, a user ID, and a response time in milliseconds. I'm going to flip over from search into PowerQueries, and you'll notice it preserves my filter. A Power Query always begins with a filter. And the next thing I'm going to do here is to group by user, and I'm going to create a couple of new columns, one which is a count of the total number of requests for each user. And the other, I'm going to run the P90 function on timems, which means it's going to give me the 90th percentile response time in milliseconds for each user. So as I scroll through here, I can see each user, I can see the number of requests and their 90th percentile response time. What I want to do next is map from user ID to email address, and to do that I need a second subquery that will function as my lookup table. So I'm going to flip over here and look at, conveniently, I have another set of log lines from a MySQL application here that maps from user ID to email address. So in order to build this lookup table, I'm going to go ahead and move over to Power Queries. And all I really care about here is building a table where I have user in one column and email in the next column. As I run the query here, you'll see now I have my lookup table. This is where the magic happens with the join. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and move back to my first screen here. I'm going to build my join command on this screen. A little pro tip for you: if you want to enter a new line in this query box, you should use Shift and Return. This will insert a new line. If instead you just hit Return by itself, that will execute the command. Next up, I'm going to start building my query. You'll remember that Power Queries always begin with a filter. However, the join command doesn't require a filter. So instead, I'm just going to start with a pipe followed by the command join. Then I'm going to take my first query here and make it my subquery. I'm going to put it in parentheses. Then I'll type a comma and another new line and another set of parentheses, and I'm going to paste in my second subquery. So now I've got my two subqueries that are in parentheses. And lastly, I want to join on the user field. So as you probably are aware, when we run a join, we execute both of these queries. We get two tables back. And then for each row in the first table, I'm going to look up based on the user value. And the first match I get in the second table, I'm going to take the email value from that row and I'm going to put it as a new column in my output table. By default, we're going to do a left join. What that means is we're going to go through every row in the first table, and even if we don't find a value for user, we'll just go ahead and put in a null value. So I'm going to get one row in my output that corresponds with one row in my first table of input. If instead I did an inner join, then we would skip any log line, any rows where we didn't have a match on the user table. But again, I'm using the left join, which is the default here. So when I go ahead and run this, I get a new column that maps from user ID to email address. And as a finishing touch here, I can go ahead and change the order of the columns so that I have email address on the left here. And now I have a nice handy table that shows me what the response time is for each one of these users. And for example, if I wanted to pay some attention to the slowest response times, I could sort by timems in reverse order. And now I can see my users that were having the slowest user experience on the website. So that's an example of a quick join between two sets of data within your logs. I hope you found this useful and you're already starting to think about ways that you can apply this to your own data. Thanks.